Hi and welcome to When Harry Met Sally.
Hello, Harry. How are you, darling?
I'm good. How are you doing,
Good.
Sally?
Really excited about this episode.
Me too. It was so great speaking last time about just you and me and where we've come from and why we're doing this podcast. And I'm super excited for our two guests today.
Absolutely. So it's not about us today. It's about them.
Yeah, I know. Which is okay.
It is
I can
very
handle
exciting. They're wonderful photographers and I can't wait to get started.
I just want to start by thanking Collarts for the use of their wonderful pod suites, and thank you so much for supporting the podcast, and Shaquille for recording and doing all the wonderful audio stuff that we know nothing about. So thank you so much, guys.
They have been fantastic.
And also Martin Stevens for the great intro music.
That's my husband.
You kind of know him, don't you, Sal?
I kind of know him. He did a great job putting that guitar riff together. So it's all good, isn't it?
It is. So let's get to our guests. So I'm so excited to introduce Aisha, Kenton and Sean Davey today.
Yay!
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. Hello. Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having us.
We are thrilled.
It's so great to have you guys in the room. And I think for us, for Sally and me, we're obviously, collaborating on this podcast ourselves. And for both of us in our businesses, collaboration's a huge factor. And we just think it's so important in the creative industries and photography. And so it was a no-brainer to start the podcast series with you guys, who, in my opinion, are some of the best collaborators in the business.
I think so too. And what's really interesting is traditionally photography has been a space where photographers work on their own and they pull people in on an as-need basis. And over my 25 plus years in the industry, there's been a couple of teams that have worked well together. But what was it that sort of triggered you guys to start working as a team rather than solo? And why do you do that? How does it work? Aisha, maybe you can start.
I think, I guess our relationship really, started the collaboration. We were already photographing each other as friends, and then we, got married, and we were, we're both photographers. So I think it naturally kind of progressed as our relationship progressed. I'm so lucky to be able to have someone to bounce ideas and everything with. But yeah, it's always been very organic and really natural, from just having a friendship to our partnership now, as a married couple.
Old married couple. Old and young married couple.
Well, it's very special because there's not a lot of people. I'm sure if my husband's listening, he'd be going, no, don't even think about working with me every day. But
an interesting story is our... not even a first date, but the first time we actually went out and spent time together was when I had a gallery in Canberra, and Aisha walked into the gallery one day and was looking at prints, and she really caught my attention because she came up and she asked, are these silver gelatin prints? And I was like, whoa.
That's my girl.
Yeah. That's very specific.
I'm going to marry her. You had me at silver gelatin.
Yeah, that's my normal pickup line.
Hey.
And so we had a conversation. Aisha was with some friends in the gallery. And after about 20 minutes of talking about photography, her friends were like, we're going to go and check something else out. We'll come back. And we kept talking about photography. We became friends. And Aisha's from Malaysia, and this was in Canberra when we were both living there. And I said, maybe a couple of weeks later, I'm going to go for a drive today in regional New South Wales and just go and take some pictures in some towns. And I thought, you probably, haven't been to some of these places. Would you like to come on a trip and just take some pictures? And so Aisha said yes, and we spent 14 hours that day from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. driving around all different towns, taking pictures. And I just remember that we never once turned the radio on. It was just talking about photography all day. And yeah, that was just the sort of start of our relationship and friendship. And it sort of blossomed from there. And
Yeah, we still talk for 14 hours about photography.
Isn't that
Just
beautiful?
true love for it.
And leading up to that, were you both independent photographers in your own right? Can you talk a little bit about just that time leading up to it?
Yeah, so I had just moved from Malaysia to do a degree in fine art and majoring in photography at ANU, so the art school there. And so I was maybe in my second year when I met Sean. So I was kind of doing photography in a kind of fine art basis. And I was kind of interested in the industry. I had just moved to Australia and Canberra for the first time. And so I was interested in looking at photography, but arts and the arts community, and also being an arts worker. So that was kind of where I was at the time when I met Sean. And from then, I started, my first major body of work was actually photographing our relationship. And that was my graduating body of work too. And that was really quite interesting because I come from a culture where showing, I guess, relationships or intimacy is quite taboo. So to have my graduating work to be our relationship out in the public was really quite important for my process.
And how did your family cope with that?
My mum and dad came over for the graduating exhibition and they loved it. They were really amazed at what I was able to do. But yeah, it's still quite interesting kind of working in that realm. But I think having worked so personally out there as I guess that my first point of call has been really good, especially when you collaborate with other people, because you know how it feels to be vulnerable. You ask those things yourself, you check in with yourself, how are you feeling and all of that about doing the work and showing it in a public space. And I think because of that, I have a interesting way of collaborating with people. I'm always checking in when I'm working with subjects or other people because I know how it feels firsthand, to have that, I guess, personal work out there.
And Sean, how about you? What were you up to? I know you were obviously working in a gallery. And what was your practice before you met Aisha?
The gallery side of things and the personal side of photography for me has always kind of existed in the side, as a side hobby project. I feel photography is very much a profession and a hobby. And the gallery is something that I made with a bunch of other photographers, and we ran it out of Canberra for a while, kind of like a little artist cooperative collective.
Were you from Canberra?
I'm from Canberra.
Okay.
And but my background in photography is more in documentary, editorial, newspaper photography. So throughout the years, I did a cadetship in the early 2000s with Fairfax in Sydney. And since then, I've been doing newspaper and documentary work. A lot of work in Parliament House doing federal politics in Canberra, worked in Sydney, some time up in far north Queensland, worked in Papua New Guinea for about 10 years on and off on personal sort of project work, and got involved. Documentary photography by nature, you're dealing with other people. And being a documentary photographer relies on people allowing you to photograph and welcoming you and giving you access. And so I think, my work, while I would say it's, a documentary photographer, I don't know, sometimes I think photography is not even the main thing. It's the relationships with the people that it forms. For me, that really is what I love about photography. It's about spending time with people, the story, the journey, and not only the story that you're telling or you're showing in the photography, but the personal story that is developing between you and the subjects. Your own story is developing at the same time. And I think being aware of that is a real privilege, and that has extended as Aisha and I have started to work together, and all the things that Aisha talks about, she influences me in that practice as well. And so we do community work in terms of we teach photography workshops for teenagers, community-based work, programs, education. It kind of, as you do more of it, you realise that actually the most satisfying part of photography is when the ego, breaks down a little bit. When you've learnt things and when you've gained your own knowledge, it's something else ticks over, and everything that you build up, then you sort of start to let that fall away. And I think that's beautiful, because that's when things become more really about the world around you and those that you're working with.
And putting my commercial hat on, how do you make money
You know? Get it. Next question.
You might need to come to the Bramble Effect.
Not being like dismissive of that, but you know, work is
eat, right?
Yeah, but work is work. Over the years I've had a number of jobs in and out of photography. I've been up cherry pickers helping friends put up signs, and I've worked in cafes and doing studio like work at the ABC, setting up sets and things, and I've done photography work, freelance photography, but not even in terms of photography. Yes, newspaper photography and being commissioned to do things, architectural photography, documenting events. I mean, if we lay it all out, a freelance photographer does what a freelance photographer does.
We talk about that. We talked about that when we were talking about each other too, about not being too proud to, you know, like when you're in somewhere and you go, there's no toilet paper, we've got to change the toilet roll. You know, I'll climb up I wouldn't probably do the cherry picker thing, but scared of heights. But it's important to be very diverse and it's the beauty of what you two do together and about relationships with people, that you are happy to roll your sleeves up and pitch in and do whatever you have to do. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Last year we did a commission for the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, where we went around the country, like giving photography workshops and building an archive for the department for
Premier
images.
and Cabinet?
Department, Prime Minister and Cabinet.
Prime Minister and
federal,
Cabinet?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's like, you know, it's not something you kind of put on your Instagram or you advertise, but, you know, this is a good space to be like, yeah, like whatever jobs come and whatever you can do, whether it's architecture. Aisha does some work documenting film sets.
And BTS on film sets.
Yeah, BTS, and then like actually photographing what you see, you know, what pops up on Netflix or whatever, the image, and doing things like that. So that's only just new, but like diversifying and going, and I think doing that is really good because you meet all sorts of people too. And I think that's the beauty of being a freelance photographer. Is that like you meet all different types of people from all different places, like, and you never do that. You never have that access otherwise.
I've always said that about photography, that you're the industry that goes behind the scenes in everyone else's industry, and the amount of places you can end up and go, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, I didn't even know this was a job.
Gives you
but
the
here
ticket
I
to
am.
do that. I know. It's extraordinary. And are you still based in Canberra now?
Melbourne.
No, we're based in Melbourne now.
And why the move?
So we were in Cairns for a year during COVID, and that was a really interesting time. Obviously, like, borders were closed, and we did the move because we had spent maybe a couple of years in Canberra. I had finished my degree, and we just wanted a change, different scenery. And so we moved to Cairns in 2021. And when we were up there, we created a non-for-profit organisation called Pacific Centre for Photographic Arts, PCPA. Bit of a tongue twister. But we started that, and that was that kind of started our kind of look into more collaborative work between the two of us, and also for communities. And we were based regional and quite rural then, and talk about diversifying. Some of the projects we did back then in Cairns, we weren't paid for. We just saw it and we did it because we felt like it was important to do, and also important for us as people to do those projects, even though they weren't funded. And because we have done that, they have been the basis of some of the commissions and projects we have now done, in the future. And so I think, sometimes it's really hard to think of, do projects or go, I can only just do this if I'm paid, but some of our best projects have been because we have to do it. We have to do this.
Well, it's so important to do that because it feeds into other people being able to see how you see life and how you see things, for them to be inspired to want to use you and commission you for work. And you can't just be shooting other people's ideas. You go bonkers, right?
Absolutely.
I think money also gets in the way a lot of the time. And when you're commissioned to do something, there is an element of having to provide an outcome. When you are self-initiating a project, it's much more open. It's much more open to the potentials of whatever may happen between the people you're working with, whatever circumstance comes up. and the direction is more open.
It's really good for people that are listening, though, to understand how you can survive doing what you're doing. And we were speaking earlier, and you're teaching, you were telling me. So, that provides a regular income as well for you to be allowed to do some of the things that you aren't being paid for as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think photographers focus a lot of their attention on how to make money being a freelance photographer. And I've been a freelance photographer since about 2003 on and off. But, as I said, I've had regular side jobs and doing things. But I've got friends who make a lot of money doing freelance photography. But at the end of the day, admittedly, they don't pick up the camera for themselves. And it's a common trait. And they will work and they will do things for X, Y, and Z company. And at the end of the day, they're not making any work that they want to make for themselves.
Well, so how I sort of refer to that is, we've got two paths that we can go down where we are feeding our soul and then we're feeding ourselves. And it's about finding that mixture, which I think from looking at your work and listening to what you do, it seems that you've got that, beautiful balance that you are constantly feeding your soul, which is so exciting to have that.
Oh, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I admit, like when I was like living in Sydney, there were times I cried myself to sleep because I didn't know where money was coming from and I just questioned my decision. What am I doing? And it's like, laying it all out there, it's challenging. And you've got to develop a network and you've got to push and you've got to do the thing that you love. And there's no option. We look back, even when we moved to Melbourne, we didn't have any work lined up here. And I was looking through, I still get job ads. I think it's just habit that I still get all the job ads that come in, photographer in Melbourne. I still look at them. And you've always got to be on the lookout.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's not that you are going to necessarily do all the things that you have an idea to do, but especially as a freelance photographer or self-employed or independent, and I tell my students this all the time, and this is also applies to photojournalism, for researching subjects, is you've got to put yourself out there and be attentive to what's going on. Even if you're not involved, you've got to put the feelers out and see what's happening.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys go about, like, you're obviously so prolific with, like, not just your work but your ideas. Well, that's what it feels like. Sean's, for the listeners at home, Sean's sort of shaking his head. People say that about me too, and I think not at all. But I think from the outside, you are putting work out there. You've created an organisation. You've just put out this project through the ABC. You're working at Linden Gallery, educating students. I think there's so much that you guys are doing. How do you kind of like know what idea is going to stick? Like, is it just that there's a whole bunch of ideas happening and then one sort of ends up leading you, or is it that you really follow hard down one path?
I think maybe the reason why it looks like we're doing so much, and I think for me at least, is that I feel like throughout, I guess, my emerging career, I've had to create paths for myself because I haven't seen opportunities or career paths where I feel like I fit into that, into that, I guess, like prescribed bubble. So I feel like that's why it's being a freelance photographer or, educator has been really good for me, and it feels that it fits and I'm inspired to do the work is because I have had to create the paths, rather than wait or, look for prescribed jobs and things like that. And in that work as well, like it guides me in my own personal photography. And I'm not, I guess there isn't many barriers as well, I guess, being a woman and a person of colour in this industry that we're in. And so maybe that's why it feels like we're doing a lot of work. I think it's just to keep that going, to create the paths, but also like to meet when we meet the people we meet as well, and if we're collaborating with people, to not to help them, but to also like keep that collaboration going, for people that we meet, and then for us ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And one of the things I wanted to ask too, so if you are doing a shoot together, is it like, okay, I'm shooting this is my thing, or Sean, you're doing it?
We don't really work like that.
Okay, how do you work?
I don't think that like who presses the button, or that, breaking it down to that binary approach of who's shooting what, really has any weight in our collaboration. Again, I wouldn't even think that act is the important thing that's at the forefront of the process. There's so much work and that goes into it that I think we just talked about before. It's like, talking in metaphors, it's like this iceberg where you can just see the top, and that's like the click of the button. But really, all the work is done before that. Like that last bit is just like, yep, okay, whatever.
And I think that's so important for people to be listening to. That's why I asked that question, because we definitely did just have that conversation. We're coming to sort of towards the end, if you could possibly believe that.
Wow, that happened really quickly.
It happened really quickly.
I'm not ready yet.
I know. And we've still got a few minutes left, but one of the things that we're going to be talking to everybody about is, why do you do it? Why do we do what we do? And so individually, I'd like to ask you that question. I'll start with you, Aisha. Why do you do it?
I think I do what we do is because I think as human beings, like, I don't think we're meant to exist in a bubble. I don't think we're meant to do like life alone. And I think doing collaborative projects and having our kind of collaborative kind of relationship with Sean, it's important. Like, I learned so much. I learned so much collaborating with Sean, but I learned so much with the people I collaborate with. And it just I feel like it makes me a better human being in the world. Like, I learn about myself a lot, and I learn also a lot about the world, which I couldn't have done alone if I was doing photography alone. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do.
One thing I've noticed spending time with you, Aisha, is that you talk a lot about the community, and even when you've been to art exhibitions or gallery openings, you say, the community turned up tonight. And I just really love that you you talk about our photography community and our art photography community like it's a family. And I know who you're talking about when you say that. I can see the people in the faces of the people that we work with, and I just love that kind of approach, that it's all about community.
Yeah. I think at the core of it, I think also at the core of it is how I grew up too. Like, I grew up in Malaysia, and like, you have, your extended family, and they all help out, and you're never alone. And so I think that's just part of myself and my being. So I think I bring that naturally. When I'm working in photography or in the arts or with community, I think it's important to share that kind of ethos.
And over to you, Sean.
Why do I do it?
Why do you do what you do?
I think I could probably break it down into that I don't fully understand it yet, so I continue to do it. And the second thing is that I believe in it. I think those two things encapsulate photography for me, that when I see a photograph or a body of work that moves me, it moves me like no other form does, and I believe in it. But I don't necessarily feel like I'm anywhere near understanding it. There is something in a photograph, and it could be an amateur photograph, it could be a family photograph, it could be a professional photograph, whatever it may be. But I believe that the unknown that exists, the magic of photography, is still very alluring to me. And even though I teach it and we practice it, sometimes I see it in my own work. And that for me is kind of success. Developing a roll of film, looking at a negative on a light box by myself in a room, with a cup of coffee, and looking at a negative and feeling something
and smelling it.
That is
smell. Is that weird?
Not at all. Not at all.
I get that. And I, like you, I want to ask another question. Even I'm looking at my clock. Who inspires you? Not each other. Don't do that.
Photographers
for everyone
or
that's
anyone?
not listening, they just stared into each other's eyes. What's a photo that inspires you? You talked about photography.
I think the first photographer that ever really moved me was Andrei Curators, Hungarian photographer.
Yes.
And still to this day, I actually shared with my students in their first week of semester just last week the photograph that I still can remember to the day in the bookshop, pre-websites, pre-internet, in Canberra, in the local Dimmicks, when I was maybe 19 years old, knowing and wanting more from photography than I had seen. And I came across an Andre Curtes book and saw this young boy holding a sheep laying in a field, and
Blew your mind.
the feeling was there.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to work out something. I got to work into this.
Yeah, I got to figure out what this is happening here.
I'm still doing it.
Something amazing's
And
happening.
what about you, Aisha?
That's quite a loaded question, actually.
You've got 30 seconds.
I watch a lot of film, so I'm just going to say, Melbourne Film Festival is happening next month, and I gain a lot of inspiration from watching film, even though that's not where I would go. I don't it gives me anxiety to think about film and all that stuff that happens, in film and movies. But a lot of the inspiration I get is from watching foreign films, art house films. So I'm really keen for that next month. There's something about visual, the visualness of film and sound
Cinema
and
Paradiso.
yeah, and
She does love Daido Moriyama.
oh yeah. I mean, I love the Japanese photographers because I feel like there is a freedom to which they photograph that I don't think a lot of Western photographers have it in them. A freedom to there's no rules,
Yeah.
which
And
I love.
Wendy Ewald.
Oh yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yours or hers?
I should
Oh my
say.
God, we've got two people, one brain.
I know.
Is that what's happening here?
Oh my God, I love you guys so much.
been just
Honestly,
a
you're two of
joy.
my favorite people ever. And every time we catch up, something amazing happens, and the conversation's beautiful. And this could go on for another half an hour, I'm sure.
Well,
but
this is our first series, so when we're doing our second series, we'll
Yeah.
work out how to weave them into
weave
that
them
one.
back in again. Yeah, there are two of them, so they get 2 episodes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fair enough.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being a part of it, guys. Next week, we're going to be speaking to Rowena, who's a bit of a different kettle of fish, but very much similar in a way that she's really works very collaboratively with her sitters and the people she's photographing to get this real honesty out of them. So,
But working on her own, so that'll
working
be
on her own. Yeah,
that'll
so I'm
be
really
different.
interested to hear about how she kind of communicates that.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it.
rock.
Wasn't that bad?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Okay, Harri, I'll see you next episode.
See you next episode, Sally.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.